Welcome to Bowie News and Views. It's a pleasure to welcome back for his second appearance, Carlos Sera, guru of cash,
oh gosh,
well-known financial planner, and Bowie's best-known money man.
All right, thank you, John.
And in addition to being a Bowie High School graduate, the last time Carlos was on the show, we had the highest number of hits on the internet that we've ever had. And we're going to try to beat that record because he's got some fascinating information to share with you. You did a study, a financial study, which we're going to get into. Can you synopsize it for the viewers and let them know what they can expect as the program progresses?
Okay. Well, let me get a little chart out. It's actually the best way of doing it. Let me start out with that. I call this the phases chart. Most people, when they think about investing, they think of accumulating wealth. And almost every bit of literature that's written talks about you should invest this way for retirement, you should do this for retirement. But what's neglected is the second phase, which is what do you do once you're retired? So the first phase is called the accumulation phase, where you're putting money into your portfolio or into your account. You're trying to create wealth, and most people think of that phase as having a little bit higher risk level. The second phase, which lasts nowadays almost as long as the accumulation phase, is the distribution phase, where now you're taking money out of your portfolio. You have a simple job, which is just you don't want to run out of money.
Good point.
Okay.
Good point.
And most people think of that period as one where they have to take less risk. And what our study basically found is that the risk as basically is measured by the percentage that you allocate to the stock market should be very close to the same from both the accumulation phase and the distribution phase. Somewhere between 50 to 70% of your money should be in stocks most of your life. And
that's kind of a scary premise.
It's a scary, yes it is, especially when you hear one of the top advisors of all time, a guy who started Vanguard, is John Bogle.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. Now Bogle has this formula which says you should have your money 1 minus your age. So if you're 40 years old, you should have 1 minus 40, 60% should be in stocks. If you're 60, 1 minus 60, 40% should be in stocks. If you're 80, 1 minus 80, 20%. So it's a good rule of thumb. But what we've found is that it doesn't work in most cases.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine so.
It doesn't work in most cases. When you're 60 years old, and I'll give you, for example, if you're 60 years old and you need your money to last until you're 90 for 30 years, if you keep all your money in let's say, bonds, okay, you have about a 9% chance of it lasting 30 years.
Just 9%?
Yeah. 9% chance. And I'll have a slide on that later.
Okay.
In that particular case, John Bogle is correct. If you're 60 years old, 1 minus your age is 40% stocks. Yeah. He's correct. So in many cases it works. In many cases it doesn't. I'm just saying. So that's what our study came up with. It's pretty intense driven. We studied the period from 1927 through 2008. Okay. We looked at what's the inflation rate during that period and looked at various scenarios on how to take money out.
That encompasses the two major recessions that we've gone through, depressions almost.
Well, it encompasses, the Depression, World War II, 73-74 recession, the 87 crash, and then these last two, which have really hurt people. And the reason this research is now so important is because in the last 10 years, the market's dropped 50, there was someone who started investing 10 years ago has 15%, and even if they took no money out of their portfolio, the market's down about 15% during that time frame. Right. So if you're taking money out, if you retired 10 years ago and you were taking money out, chances are you're broke. Okay, if you were taking out 5% per year for 10 years, let's say that's 50%, and it's down 15, you don't have the money to last.
Yeah, that's a scary prospect.
Yeah, and one of the things that every planner does when they're doing their analysis is they're planning on having 30 years for success rate. on a portfolio as it's withdrawing.
Yeah.
They don't want to, they don't want you to retire at 60 and then run out of money when you're 72 or 70, 78 or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the essence of the study. And what we also found is that, and this is the scary part, if you have a high percentage of your money in the stock market, unfortunately, if you start at the wrong time, I heard you retired in 2007.
Yes, yes.
Okay, had you retired and had all your money in the stock market, you would have found that you would have not been able to recover that.
Oh, I know.
That money.
I know. I moved it immediately into a money market the day I took off.
That was very fortunate.
Didn't make any money.
But hopefully, you don't keep it there after today.
Oh, okay. You're going to convince me.
I don't know if I'll convince you, but I'll show you some evidence that says that perhaps.
Yes. And I'm in Vanguard.
Vanguard's a great company.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the funds that we recommend is the Vanguard Wellington.
Oh,
fund.
yeah, that gets high rate.
It's a great fund,
Yeah.
and it positions the portfolio about 65% stocks, 35% bonds. The stocks that it has are high dividend paying stocks, very conservatively managed. And when you have bad periods in the market, Vanguard doesn't lose as much as other funds. So that's why we like it. It's not going to do as well during great times, but it doesn't matter. During the withdrawal phase of a person's life, that's the perfect type of investment. So let me go on to another little slide so you can see what we're talking about here.
Okay.
As I said,
Did you do these slides yourself?
No, actually, my son did these slides.
I know, yes.
I am technically challenged. My son does this stuff for me, thank God.
Who was sitting in the audience making sure that Daddy doesn't mess up the slides.
Yes. So anyway, what we did here is we did a study of 30-year success rates. For example, if you retired in 1927 and you had a portfolio, anywhere from 100% stocks or 60% stocks, whatever, we looked at every single permutation of what you could do. So if you retired in 1927, 30 years later, it's 1956.
Yeah.
What happens if you had all your money in stocks or all money in bonds or 50-50 or 60-40? And what we came up with is, and of course we said, how much money do you need to take out of your portfolio on an annual basis? And we factored in inflation. So we looked at, for example, if you have 0% of your money in stocks and 100% of your money in bonds, and you take out 5% of your money every year, you have a 9% chance of succeeding. That means 91% of the time, your money will not last 30 years. So if you retire at 60 and you keep your money conservative and you take out 5%, you will run out of money. Now the good news is if you run over here, if you're wealthy enough, for example, that you don't need 5%, well, your chances of increasing your rate of return grow up to 79%, let's say. Now if you need more and you need 7%, you're absolutely out of luck.
Wow.
So this is the grid that you really need to focus on. Most people should be somewhere between the 40 to 60% stock level, and have a distribution level around 4%.
Okay.
So one thing to also take into consideration, that's why I'm not here plugging Vanguard, but Vanguard is known as the low-cost provider.
Yeah. Well, I'm very happy with Vanguard.
They're good. But what happens is if you're going to take out 4% and your advisor is charging you, let's say, 2% a year.
You're right.
Okay, you're really taking out 6%.
Oh, that's true.
Okay,
Yeah.
because in that case, that's the return your portfolio has to make.
Wow.
So fees are very important, and that's why a guy like Bogle has done it the way he's done it, and that's why they've been so successful and so on and so forth.
I've heard some negative comments from people about their advisors.
I don't even know if they have advisors at Vanguard.
No, not Vanguard. I mean people, their individual financial advisors.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is definitely the time.
It is indeed.